Hello and welcome back to episode 16 of the Hillians Talk Burgess Hill podcast. Coming to you live today from the Burgess Hill Town and the John Buck Suite, specifically in the Burgess Hill Town Football Club. Not from your
the very cold John.
Not
Buck
from your
Suite.
front room this time, Lyndon.
No, I didn't. Sorry, I didn't invite you guys over. Normally we do this in my living room. But
Yeah, it's more formal. This feels.
yeah, well, it's not your fault. I've got darts after, which is also here. So
Convenient. The reason why we're at the club is because we've got two very special guests today, not just me and Lyndon talking to you. Delighted to be joined by both first team managers, Gary and Jay. Obviously, thanks so much, guys, for both of you coming on. Me and Lyndon were sort of talking a little bit about sort of where to start the podcast and what should we go with first. I'm going to mention Chatham straight away. Just get it out of the way. We were pretty annoyed that we couldn't fit this in before one of our previous games when, a last-minute winner and everyone would be very, very high. But if we just sort of touch on Chatham, we won't go into it in massive detail because there's a lot more positives and loads of good things that we can talk about. But if we were just to sort of firstly start with Chatham, and the first thing to mention of Chatham is appreciate it's only been 48 hours, but I'm sure there's a few people out there that might be sort of wanting to hear a bit of an update on Martin. There might not be an update on Martin, but just if there is, or from what you know, just for the fans, is there anything that any updates at all on him? Maybe how's he doing? Have you spoke to him? What's the sort of situation there? Appreciate it's early days, but.
Yeah, we've spoken to Martin. Martin's okay, as well as he can be, considering the injury he sustained. He had an X-ray on Saturday, which has shown there's no broken bones or anything like that. And now we're just awaiting an MRI scan, which will then tell us the extent of the damage sustained. So at this point, we stay as positive as we can.
Yeah.
Martin is being as positive as he can. So we'll update further when we get any more news.
it would be typical of Martin that he can jump out of a plane the week before and be absolutely fine, and then doing the thing that he loves, that he does all the time, is when he gets injured seriously. So hopefully he's fine.
One of the fans behind the goal, when it happened, turned to me and said, has he jumped out of a plane yet, or was that ruined it for him? And I was thinking, that's probably not the first thing coming to Martin's mind at the moment, to be honest. But he has jumped out of the plane. So it's sort of, I start with that because I obviously wanted to get the update on Martin. But when you sort of look back on sort of Chatham, it from a fan's point of view anyway, it certainly felt that like quite a lot of things during the game just sort of went wrong for us. It just didn't sort of go to plan. Obviously, Martin's injury in the first 10 minutes was obviously a huge loss. And then perhaps if people sort of look at the score that weren't paying too much attention to the sort of running commentary, they might think that it was quite sort of one-sided and we were never really in the game. But when people find out that we actually had a penalty to take the lead at 0-0, obviously goes without saying. But Jay, how sort of important, how sort of crucial, I should say, do you think that miss turned out to be in the end?
Well, it's like you said, you asked how the game was, and I think it's one of those days that what could go wrong for us did go wrong for us, I think. As I said, within the first 3 minutes, obviously, Boxy jarred his knee or whatever he's done to his knee. And then there's 10 minutes sort of wait until we got going again. And then during the game, I felt Chatham were on top of us at the time. And then we got a cross into the box, which had hit a player's hand. And I thought, here we are, sort of luck might sway for us a little bit. And we got the penalty. So Welp stepped up, someone that you'd think like very dependable, not knocking him on here like this, but he's one of those players that you look at and go, yep, that's right. He's stepping up. Hit the post, come back out, went straight into the keeper's hands, where normally he'd come out and give you a second chance or even hit the keeper and go in. And then, as I said, it was just one of those days at the office where we went sort of 3 goals behind straight away, and then the 4th goal again was one of those. As I said, it's one of those days that the keeper's caught it. He's kicked the ball out. No one else, I don't really saw what happened, and then all of a sudden the linesman's flagging and penalty given, and they score a penalty with a keeper being sent off and Glenn taking the gloves and going in goal.
Yeah, I was obviously going to come on to a little bit about the goals. I suppose, is it also a frustration that it seemed to be that, obviously Chatham are a very good team, and don't get me wrong, I thought they played very well against us on Saturday, but is a frustration, I suppose, from that game that actually quite a lot of their goals come from sort of mistakes from our point of view rather than, them breaking us down?
Yeah, really frustrating. I mean, we were no way going to get a result from the game with the way we performed. We weren't good enough. We know that on Saturday, but the mistakes just compounded the day for us. All avoidable goals. As good as Chatham were on the day and as poor as we were, all of the goals are avoidable. So we're disappointed with that. But we look at the day as a bad day at the office. It's not kind of defined what the season's done so far. We accept that it's a bad day at the office, and generally when we've had a bad day at the office and a poor result, we've had a good bounce back and we've been brilliant as a reaction. So we're hoping that's a springboard for us to have a good Christmas period.
Absolutely. And we also mentioned there that it was just a bad day at the office. You know, that game in particular, I think it was our second defeat in our last 13, and I think our first defeat in sort of 7 or 8 or whatever it was. So it's, like you say, certainly just sort of one game against a very good team. So if we sort of move away from sort of picking the bones of Chatham, and sort of, I suppose, first of all, sort of having a sort of reflection of the season so far, obviously from August up until now, we're sort of roughly around the sort of halfway point in the season. Is it sort of fair to say that from sort of, if we're looking back at August to sort of where we are now, this has been a sort of, would you say a sort of start that sort of exceeded expectations? Would that be fair to say, or is this sort of, you always sort of back, very, very, strongly your boys, but, would that be fair to say, do you think it exceeded expectations, or is this just, because we have mentioned that points have been dropped also from positions we might have thought that we could pick up points in. So would that be fair, exceeded expectations, or is it just, just a start you might have expected being here where we are?
Depends whose expectations we're exceeding or not exceeding. We're very obviously confident in ourselves, and we know what we build and we know what we bring to the table in terms of the way we play football. I think every league prediction at the start of the year put us in the bottom 2. Which is great, and they're welcome to their own opinions, and that's what football's about, is opinions. And then you've got to let the outside world have their own opinions and just be confident in-house about what we do and go about our business. We knew the league was going to be hard this year. It was a step up from where we were last year. The league is better, and the standard is better. There are more crowds. There are better stadiums. So everything's a jump up in terms of progression. We as a team, or as a management, we knew that we'd win some games and we'd lose some games. It was just going to be inevitable this year. Were we confident that we could and do a good job? Yes, of course we were. Have we exceeded expectations? No, because we knew we were a good side. Yes, because I don't think people gave us a chance to do well. But we've now played pretty much everyone in and around sort of the top area, and the bottom half now, and we found our feet, I think, really well. I think we've also progressed really well along route as we did last season, and we've done the same again this season in terms of personnel and the way we go about things as well. We're very critical between us about what can we do better after each game, whether it's a win or a loss. Sometimes when we lose, we learn more about ourselves than we do when we win. And then we try and plug those gaps to get better each time that we, come up against those sort of problems. So, yeah, we're on track and we're doing well. Like you said, there's some games that we've been a bit cheesed off towards the end of it because we performed so well large portions of the game, and then conceded some daft goals or late equalisers. But then also on the flip side of it, as you said in the last 4 games before this, we've scored in the 95th, 96th, 97th, and 98th minutes to get goals either back into the game or to get their wins. So it does have, sort of both sides of the effect of it, really. Are we positioned where we think we should be? The league table never lies. Could we look up if we've done things again? Yes, probably. So, yeah, it's everything this year is a learning curve for ourselves, but we backed ourselves to do okay in the league. And we'd never speak to the outside world and tell us anyone else where we think we would put ourselves. But again, we're learning on the job, and we'll only get better going forward.
Absolutely. Just a sort of question that popped to mind there, actually, when we were talking about, whose expectations maybe are we exceeding. This is probably more relevant towards the start of the season, sort of August, September time. And I might be totally wrong, but do you think that, we've already mentioned that a lot of outside noise, sort of writ off Burgess Hill straight away as, oh, they'll be in a relegation struggle. When we started coming up against teams, perhaps in August and September, do you think maybe a couple of actual teams themselves, perhaps management and staff and how they set up, do you think they might have underestimated us a little bit? Would that be fair to say, or do you think that everyone's very takes Burgess Hill as a serious threat now?
I think what we're finding at this league is everyone's prepared for everything. I don't think any of the managers we faced will have taken us lightly. So I don't think that teams have been underprepared. I think we've just not given ourselves enough credit in that we were a good side at step 4. We're a good side at step 3. I don't think we've exceeded expectations. What I think the season's shown us so far is what we kind of expected, that there would be highs and lows and it would be up and down, and that will be the case in the second half of the season. I think the biggest thing for us is the biggest surprises have been where we've got the points and how we've got the points. If we look at the 3 teams that come out of National League South, we've visited all 3 and we've won 2 and drawn 1. And then we've dropped points at home to Canvey Island, and I think that's the biggest surprise for us. We went to Dartford, who were the playoff finalists last year, and we took a point. They've been varying performances. St Albans, we played really well in stages, got away with one at the end. Dartford, we got away with a point, whereas we went to Averley and we were disappointed with a point. So I think that was the biggest surprise for us, is that the bigger teams in this league that we faced, Dulwich at home, we were magnificent, we were brilliant. I think that's the biggest surprise, is that actually when we've played the bigger teams and gone toe to toe, we've been really, really good. We've probably just got to improve with the teams sort of mid-table and around where we're expected to be. The performance away to Lewis, the performance at home to Canvey, and if we get that right and we keep maintaining the performances against the teams at the top end, then I think the second half of the season will be quite exciting.
Absolutely. It's really funny actually you mentioned what you said there about maybe the only surprising thing is like where points have come from and who they've come against. And I was actually having this discussion with somebody just earlier today, and I was just having a look randomly about our sort of midweek fixtures and how we've performed on the road especially, but just in general our sort of midweek fixtures in the league specifically this season. And I think it's sort of 7 or 8 midweek league games we've had, and the only one we've lost was the home to Carshalton. And if you remember that match, that was a game that definitely one that we'd like back, that would have a different result in a game that we were probably dominant for most of the evening there. But I think with 5 league away games, I think we've won 3 and drawn 2. Now typically away league games midweek sort of traditionally the hardest sort of fixture to get points out of, obviously for reasons. Do you think there's any reason in particular why we've been so successful sort of away from home, specifically sort of midweek evening games? Is that, do you reckon that's just a thing of the sort of continuity in the squad and, the sort of form we've carried in from last season? Do you reckon there's anything, to sort of read into that as to why we've been, so good in perhaps like you say, the more challenging sort of games this season?
I think it's because we know the games that we play midweek are going to be challenging. And what it's like, when you're playing a very good side and the odds are against you, it sort of gives you an extra bit of motivation, doesn't it? And I think, as you said, like some of these games midweek in the higher league against some big sides that been challenging near the top or come down from a higher league, it's motivation. Motivation sort of gives you an extra 15-20%, and if the whole team's doing that and working together in sync with each other, then you put yourself in a good stead to go out and perform and get a good result of it. And I think that's what the boys have done this year. It's sort of not been, oh no, it's a Tuesday game, it's a bit rainy out there, a bit windy out there. We've had a lot of that obviously lately as well, but I think the boys just got on with it and got out there, and like you said, off the back of last year, we had some big away results in midweek as well, like Erith, sort of a 1-0 win. That could be sort of decisive moments of us getting a playoff spot or not. And I think this year that they've stepped up to it. They've got experience doing it, but the team is bred full of people that have challenged for things within the league or or a cup, and know what a winning mentality looks like. And so they're well prepared for every eventuality, and just a good bunch of lads together that will fight for each other and get through themselves through adversity when it's against them on a Tuesday night after a long day at work.
And just a quick one on, we touched upon like the changes from coming up to step 4 and step 3. Have you found sort of any big new challenges that you found playing in step 3, or has your mindset and approach been largely the same, or have you had to change anything or anything you've done differently on you?
No, our approach is the same. We do the same preparation we did last year. The only difference this year is we've got better tools to do that prep in terms of the analysis that we
call him Matt at all.
But we've got so much data and so much footage available to us now that we didn't have available last year. So our preparation's the same. I think what we find at step 3 is that you make a mistake or you have an off day, you are punished in this league. Whereas last year, if we weren't quite at it, we might get away with it, we might not. Whereas in this league, you don't get away with it.
Yep.
It's if you don't mark right from a corner, you will concede. If you give the ball away cheaply on transition, you will concede. That's the quality of this league. Everyone's organised, everyone's got a plan. And I'd say that's the biggest difference between step 3 and step 4.
And I suppose the only thing as well that sort of comes to mind if I think about that is, I mean, obviously this goes for any league, but it seems to be more in this league that truly everyone beats everyone in this league. You know, obviously we went to St Albans and then St Albans lose to Potter's Bar and then they go to smash Chatham 4-1 and you just sort of look around the leagues and you can never, you know, normally you can just sort of pinpoint, oh, okay, that's a bit of a home banker or, you know, that's an expected win. And in this league, it seems to be more than ever. Obviously, you know, it's the same for the Isthmian South sometimes, but sometimes in this league, you really, you know, have no idea what result's going to pop up.
I agree with you. It's the top are beating the bottom,
Yeah.
the bottom are beating mid-table, mid-table beating the bottom. It's brought out a few funny results, and we come up to the period now where even more funny results tend to happen over the Christmas period. And yeah, it would be interesting to see what results pop up because there are some good teams out there. The most consistent team at the moment seems to be Folkestone, which is why they're top of the league. But people got off to a flyer at the start of the year and sort of having a little bit of a dip, and people that didn't get off to a good start seem to be sort of picking up a little bit now. So yeah, it's no rest. There's no light game to take in this league. Every game is a massive challenge.
This might be the most obvious question of all time, but me and Lynden have sort of said this off camera as well. Is it sort of fair to say that Folkestone are quite comfortably the best team we faced so far? Would that be your opinion in terms of what you've seen, or
they're both making faces at us,
or slightly not? The reason I say it is because me and Lynden have spoken before, and we've sort of come in and said, "Wow, Folkestone."
Yeah,
really,
I mean,
really good.
I thought they were some of the best football I've seen played in the league. Like, obviously excluding us, of course, but I thought they looked like one of the best footballing sides so far.
But then obviously we ask you to, you know, we like to think of the experts, not us. So we like to.
Why do I feel like we're about to be told that we're absolutely mad?
Yeah, well, quite possibly, but go ahead.
I think you can't ignore what they're doing. They're top for a reason and they're consistent for a reason. My personal view is I think they're effective at what they do. They've got a good group of players. They've got a certain way of playing and they're good at what they do. Are they the best team we faced? Not for me. I don't think so. I thought Dartford were excellent when we played them away. I thought they were very, very good. And I think they'll push very close. I thought Chatham were effective on Saturday. I thought they've got a clear identity of what they do. And again, they do it very, very well. And that's not saying Folkestone are not a good side. They clearly are. I just think they're effective at what they do and they're clinical.
Fair. So one thing I noticed about Chatham, because like I say, we've sort of thought that Folkestone were the sort of better team, but Chatham, and it sort of goes to show because from their defensive record as well, they seem to be a lot more compact and solid at the back. Chatham, it wasn't a disrespect to us, but they just never gave us anything. Chatham, I didn't think at the weekend there was no sort of loose clearances or any sort of anything that we could really latch upon. They were so rock solid at the back. I just didn't think that. I think I checked it. I think they've kept clean sheets in over half their league games this season. I think it's 10 out of 19. They've just got clean sheets in, which shows that they're pretty rock solid. I think that'd be the only difference I would say to a sort of Folkestone team who have run away with it. They're perhaps not as effective going forward in terms of don't score many, but I think I'd back Chatham to keep more clean sheets, which we know sometimes can.
Yeah, their centre back,
win leagues.
I think it was their skipper as well. Like he seemed to clear everything and win every ball.
I
thought he
think
was quite
sometimes
solid.
as well, teams can catch other teams at the right time. So Folkestone absolutely thumped Lewis as they had a change of manager and half the squad missing. I think Folkestone caught in the home game here in the league. I thought we did really, after a poor start, we did really, really well to get back in the game, and we could have nicked something in terms of the FA Trophy. I thought they caught us at a good time. We had no George, we had no Martin Box, we had a few players missing. So I think, had we been full strength, I think we'd have given them a better game. It's just my view on it. But
Sure.
They are a very, very good team, don't get me wrong, but I do think there's teams as capable in this league.
Understood. Okay. And I suppose the sort of next thing I was going to come on to in terms of just sort of overviewing the sort of season so far and how we're at is I think it was Jay that sort of touched on it a little bit about the sort of group we've got and the sort of squad we've got. So now we're sort of, roughly speaking, halfway through the season, and it's sort of, I suppose, paramount now because we've had a little bit of, ins and outs, obviously with the squad, especially in recent weeks. Obviously, some enforced and some that was, out of our control in terms of, people that we had on loan, sort of going back that perhaps we're, quite disappointed to see go. If you were to sort of, just where we are right now to this day, if you were to sort of, have a look at the squad, are you sort of pretty content with the squad we've got at the moment? Do you feel like there's perhaps one or two more we would like to, sort of bring in, with the recent departures? Obviously, Martin's injury only happened 48 hours ago. That's obviously something I'm sure you're going to probably have to have a think about maybe. Where do you sort of assess the squad just, right now?
We're very happy with the squad that we have. But like we sort of alerted to at the beginning of this sort of podcast is that we're always looking to evolve and develop. And I think sometimes when you evolve and develop, things change. And the unfortunate thing is when you get loanees in, they can be recalled back at any time. And we know that when we take those guys on. But everyone that we've brought in at the moment in terms of loanees done an absolutely fantastic job. And it's good like someone like George Forster's, when he's been recalled back, he's now in the first team squad at Sutton. Yeah. So that's absolutely fantastic. There's obviously a bit of an injury crisis at Dartford when Luther got recalled. He's gone back and he started the last God knows how many games with them, and they've been on a little bit again of a winning streak, which is nice. So yeah, we're never going to go around and go, no, I'm not good enough. We need to get players in, but we're very happy and content with our squad, and we've got a great group. But would we always look to push ourselves and the team forward? Then the answer is yes.
Sure. And I suppose just coming on to our sort of latest signing then, obviously Max, who we brought in, I suppose a question that sort of popped up that I'll be quite keen to know is, did he sort of catch the eye when he played against us? Obviously, he scored the 2 goals. Were we sort of a little bit aware of him before that, or did we sort of notice him in that game and perhaps have kept tabs on him since? What's the sort of story with Max, and sort of you tell us a little bit more perhaps about him and what we can expect from him?
Yeah, so Max was on our radar before the Canvey game. We're always looking at what's in the league, who's got what players. We're always looking at what would be the next player we would try and bring in if we needed to. So we have a list of players in all positions from all different clubs that we like, that we think would be a good fit. We're always looking at our squad and saying it has to have the right balance. So we always look at what if. So Max was on our radar because we felt particularly he was on our radar, but particularly in the run-up to the Canvey, we did a bit more research on him and looked at the goals, and we just felt that he was a player that we haven't quite got, and we've tried to ask other players to fill that void in that we've got Welps, who's technically very good, wants to drift around to get on the ball. We've got Ben Pope, who's very physical, can win headers, can hold the ball up. But we haven't got that player that plays on the shoulder, that can stretch teams the other way, that's got that little movement down the side of the centre-backs. We just haven't, we don't feel we've got that player. Max kind of fits that fold. So we already had him on our radar, on our list of players that we were watching, and then he came here and scored twice. And that
nice audition.
yeah. And that obviously alerted us a little bit more. So we do our due diligence. We look at where they are and what their sort of situation is, and when the right player becomes available, then we try and make it happen. As Jay said, sometimes it's not about us being unhappy with the squad, it's just the right player comes at the right time. I mean, Glenn Ray is an example of that. We weren't unhappy with our midfield options, we were quite content, but the right player became available at the right time, and I don't think anyone regrets that decision.
No, absolutely not. Now, like you say, I suppose just sort of looking, obviously then ahead to sort of what's coming up. Obviously, we sort of mentioned the sort of start we've had and how we'd quite like to, sort of second half of the season, obviously try and kick on a bit. Obviously with the, starting off the season with our sort of run of away games, we're now coming up to the period where we've got the sort of run of 5 home games on Saturdays, I should say, coming up 5 home Saturdays in a row, which are obviously going to be great for everyone. Hopefully, sort of brings the sort of travel down specifically, but I suppose from a sort of management point of view, this is quite a nice sort of period where you can just sort of look, 5 home league games in a row in front of our crowd, big clubs coming down as well. Obviously, starting with Ramsgate on Saturday, and Averley, and a couple of Sussex derbies in the mix over Christmas as well. This must be the sort of period where we could really perhaps put some stringer runs together at home and really come into the new year, see where we are in the new year, and sort of go from there. Is that the sort of feeling within the camp? We can really sort of make the most of these stretch of 5 consecutive Saturday home games in a row.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good run of home games, especially consecutively after each other, is good for us, especially over this period of the year as well. And I think the good thing we're getting with the home games at the moment now is that we're really ramping up the crowds.
Yeah.
With big crowds, obviously, it becomes a much better atmosphere, and we're creating good atmosphere. And as a former player and as management, when we go out there now, there's nothing better than playing in front of a full-on atmosphere with big sort of bumper-sized crowds.
Yeah.
Especially ones that we got at home as well, and make a bit of noise. So it's extra, like, sort of get up and go when you get out there, like I say, the 12th man, isn't it? It's a bit of a cliche saying it, but it is very much like that, especially when you're at home. And we've been sort of laughing about that, haven't we, recently, because we've been getting new supporters coming through, making a lot of noise as well, coming standing between the dugouts.
Yeah.
People that we haven't seen before, and all of a sudden they've come out the woodwork this year, which is great, and probably a testament to, one, how much this club's grown, and two, how well we're doing on the pitch. And if we keep getting people like that through the door, and we keep putting some results in, then it makes people want to come back, and then it builds the atmospheres up. So, yeah, we're very excited about this period, and it's nice to have that run of games.
Absolutely. And I suppose if we sort of look ahead to, obviously, we do hopefully play tomorrow, which we might touch on a bit later. But in terms of the league, obviously back to it, Saturday here at home against Ramsgate. Probably, Ramsgate, a team that we probably know the most about, really, don't we? In terms of, sort of personnel, in terms of sort of what they do. But sort of one of you mentioned a little bit earlier about, perhaps you can play a team at a sort of good time, and perhaps it, vice versa. And it certainly seemed like at the start of the season, perhaps Ramsgate were taking a little bit of time to sort of accumulate to the league, and perhaps they're a little bit slower than perhaps people expected. And then they, changed managerial sort of appointments, and now the sort of current manager and the current squad seem to be banging form and doing really, really well. So without obviously stating the obvious, it certainly seems it's going to be a pretty tough afternoon here. But I suppose just in terms of the sort of battles we've had with Ramsgate, knowing their squad, because it's a pretty similar squad, relatively speaking, to what they have. Obviously, they brought a few Sittingbourne boys in as well, which again we should know pretty well. So again, another team that travel quite well as well. So big crowd, hopefully. In terms of Ramsgate, looking ahead to them, obviously we know how you'll prepare. Should be a good day, good atmosphere, and another sort of good test for us. Yeah.
Yeah, it will be a good test, and it's a good gauge just to see how far we've come from last year. Obviously, we had 2 really good games with Ramsgate, home and away, 2 draws, and we felt we were good value for the draw away, and we felt we probably deserved a little bit more at home. But obviously, they won the league by a ridiculous amount of points, and they have picked up recently, so it'll be a good gauge to see how far both teams have come since coming up to step 3. It's certainly a game we're looking forward to, and I'm sure they are as well. So yeah, we're excited for Saturday.
Absolutely. And I suppose now let's just touch on the sort of upcoming game, which is scheduled for tomorrow. Obviously, I say scheduled for tomorrow because we're a little bit unsure about the weather forecast and the sort of pitch up there. But just for now, let's assume it's going to be on and we're going to be heading down there. Obviously, you're not going to be sort of saying too much here and now, but the last sort of Velocity game, we sort of rotated quite a bit in terms of personnel, but we still had a very strong, sort of starting 16 out there. Do you think it will be a sort of similar sort of rotation policy tomorrow? Obviously, giving minutes to perhaps a little bit more people that might need them and resting a few. Is it still going to be quite a strong squad? What's the sort of anything you could sort of share in terms of tomorrow and sort of how we'll be sort of setting up down in Hayes?
It'll still be a strong squad. We'll take down there, but I think there was a strong squad in the last game as well. We just happen to have a very good big squad at the moment that even if we do rotate it around, it's experienced players that we're putting in there. Yes, we did add a couple of youngsters in the last game who I think all of them done exceptionally well. And so we've got to assess, obviously, the rest of the injuries and the way they are at the moment and where we stand, because there's a few injuries from the last time we played to where we are now. So we might have to plug some more gaps into the squad. But we don't know exactly where we're at until we speak to 1 or 2 people probably after this podcast as well, and then put a team sheet out. So, yeah, we've had discussions already, but we will be going there and taking a strong, good side down there. And last time we did that here, even with a few rotations, I think we put on a great performance. So it does show the strength and depth.
Absolutely.
So I don't think we have, feels weird to say it because the opposite of strong would be weak, but we don't have a weak side. Like
No.
even with rotation, I think like our squad depth is much like it was last season. Even with like the pot that we can dip into in the under-18s, I think we've got strong players coming through that pathway. We've got strong players that don't get into the first 11 every week, and I think we don't. There's no such thing as a weak team here. I think.
Agreed. I suppose my sort of
Which goes without saying, obviously, but
yeah, I suppose. Just my sort of thinking about it is because I've seen a lot of clubs do this, and I know we don't because obviously we've proven in the last round we don't. But a lot of clubs, when they sort of enter this competition, they seem to put out quite like very very youth orientated teams in terms of they just basically play a almost a sort of under 18s team with perhaps a few sort of people returning from injury here and there, and obviously with our injuries that we've mentioned about, I thought maybe there might be a little bit of a little bit more need to just rest and rotate a few. But obviously, with tomorrow. Obviously, always a game we're going to be there hoping to win, and if we do win tomorrow, I think we're through to the quarterfinals actually into the last day. And a cup competition with silverware at the end of it. Suddenly, you find yourself in the last day. It's and this could potentially be an opportunity for us to actually have away from the league, actually really cement it as a really really strong season. Is that again how we're sort of looking at it? Just obviously one game at a time, but potentially with exciting sort of end to the season.
Yeah, we're looking to go and win the game. We're not writing it off, and we're not looking at it as development purposes. We're taking a strong squad, and the players that are in there will be in there on merit, and there won't be a gimmick and just giving players.
So I'm not getting in then.
Yeah, players will be there on merit, and we are going there to win the game. And I think the important thing for us is utilising the squad is important, but it's ensuring that them players that haven't had so many minutes are ready, because we have got a busy period coming up. January's busy as well.
Yeah,
we need to make sure them players are ready when they're needed. And Brannan was an example of that last week. He's been in and out of the team, but when he was needed, he was ready. He was there, and he delivered. Tomorrow's an opportunity to condition some of the players and make sure they are ready for the next games coming up. So yeah, we are going there to win it. I agree. Getting to the quarterfinals will be great. Getting further than that will be even better.
Yep.
It is a competition we want to do well.
There we go. Excellent. I suppose just sort of coming to the end of the podcast, but something that I definitely want to sort of go over again maybe, but definitely touch on in a little bit more detail is what we've mentioned already, and that was our sort of string of last-minute goals from turning losses into draws and then draws into wins, etc. And just get a little bit more of your thoughts on it, really, because I'm not sure, to be honest, I've seen such a run like that in football very often at all. You can always get a last-minute winner. And I think it was actually you, Gary, on a previous interview said that it was a nice turnaround because we conceded a few sort of late goals initially, and then suddenly it flipped into we'd scored a few. I suppose just sort of taking it match by match, but obviously I think it was 4 in a row. It must totally change the sort of mood, sort of everywhere. If you're coming into a game in the last 30 seconds and perhaps you're, sort of searching for a winner or perhaps trying to get that draw, then coming suddenly into the dressing room after the game, having everyone so buoyed, so pretty jubilant in terms of if you win it, it must give the whole atmosphere lift and perhaps even change, perhaps your team talks after the game and perhaps how you might dissect the game. It must, totally sort of flip things on its head for you, especially 4 weeks in a row. Must, atmosphere must be.
Was it as stressful for you guys as it was for us? Is that some of the most stressful football I've ever watched?
Definitely, probably as stressful for them.
Yes, stressful, definitely. That's one way of putting it, I'd say. I'm quite glad I don't have a sort of heart monitor on the bench in the last minutes of a game.
You should get one. That'd be awesome.
No, I don't think it'd be good for you. I think I might have flatlined a few times, but yeah, of course it does. This is what football's about. As David's famous words are, "This is the entertainment business." So it just always brings me back to that comment, because in terms of entertainment,
that's why we do it.
We certainly entertained.
We are the league's entertainers.
We're just out here clip farming.
Last few minutes of those 4 games that we got those goals in. Yes, it's obviously very frustrating at times, and yes, we do get annoyed by things. But this is what we do football. This is what we've done since we were kids. This is the reason we're really involved in it, is because we love the game. And when you get moments like that, you've got to relish those moments, because there's a lot of downs, but there's also some highs. And then you've got to make sure the highs are better than the lows. So the more you can ride them waves, the happier you are, and the better everyone performs, and the more excited everyone is in the change room afterwards. So yeah, it always helps in terms of motivation, and when you come to plan your next training session and everyone's still buzzing off the back of a Tuesday night sort of late winner or a Saturday late winner or equaliser. So, yeah, it helps our job, but also it keeps the boys on track and something to fight for. And when you've got something there to fight for, then, they buy into everything you sort of deliver.
Absolutely. And favourite out of the four? I mean, mine's St Albans, just straight right off the bat. I mean, celebrations from St Albans. I think even Matt Bubbs enjoyed it, flying down the touchline of celebrations. Was that probably the best of the four in terms of reaction, perhaps moment?
I think it was the biggest because it was 3 points away to a big club.
Yeah.
Potter's Bar for me was the most important because I just think it would have been an absolute robbery had we not won that game.
Yeah.
After, I mean, the stats that we got are ridiculous. The percentage of play that we had, I mean, we made 599 passes with 508 of them being completed. You know, the statistics were off the charts. So for me, that was the most important one because had we not got that winner, I think it would have just been an absolute crime. I think we've got to give some credit to the boys because there's been a deliberate effort to try and turn it. So we try and condition. So our Tuesday training sessions, we try and replicate match load. So we try and work at an intensity and a period of time that replicates the game. We felt we weren't conditioned enough for the last 20 minutes of games, and that was costing us Carshalton, Whitehall. So we adapted the training and the boys bought into it, and the work that they put in. So the last 20 minutes of the sessions is just like pure running. And the boys have hit it really, really hard. So I've got to say special credit to them because they've gone and they've done it. And I'm not saying that all of the goals have come from this practice, but we're certainly in a better place to go and chase a game if we need to, because the boys have worked on that conditioning to be where they need to be when it really matters at the end of games. Yeah,
that must be so good from like a coach's point of view when you perhaps find not a flaw, but perhaps find something we can work on. Then you actively, put a plan together to work on it, and then you see the sort of benefits of that. From it must be such a good feeling as a coach, as a management staff to, I suppose just sort of feeling overall. Obviously, late winner, great, brilliant, but. From your, like you just said, you thought we might be not as conditioned perhaps for the last 20 minutes as you might be. Then you find a way to try and, up that by perhaps increasing the intensity of the sessions. And then that's, has or hasn't led to, really, really good sort of late performances. I mean, I'm no coach, but if I was a coach, that must be a great feeling to know that, actually we've worked on that. That's not just come from luck. That's actually,
No, it's something that we noticed, and it's part of the thing we had to acclimatise going up to this league. We found the players who were more athletic, faster, stronger, speed of thought all around the place. Yeah. So, as I said, your speed of thought sort of dies off when you're not fit enough. And fitness is a huge thing in football. One of the probably most underestimated things in football sometimes. But it's a lot of it, like Gareth said, is the players are like really brought into it. They've worked their socks off for this. A lot of the running after the sessions as well has also been player led. And they've said, come on, let's get ourselves through it. And if you can reap rewards from doing those things in training, then we're all happy with it. And as I said, once you start getting 2 or 3 sort of results at the back end of that, it makes everything worthwhile, doesn't it? So long may that continue, hopefully. And hopefully we still get fitter and fitter. And as I said, we've got the team that thinks about these things, and we think about these things, and everyone buys into it, and that's part of a winning sort of mentality is everyone buying into the same thing.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, from my point of view, Lynden, I think that's a pretty good place to leave it. I'm not sure if you wanted to wrap it up with anything or add anything else to say.
I don't think so. Thanks very much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, many, many thanks for coming down. I appreciate it's not a Tuesday or a Thursday, so another day down here at the club, so I very much appreciate it. Obviously, hopefully see you tomorrow. I do hope I see you tomorrow, but perhaps the weather might dictate that. But if not, definitely see you Saturday, and all the best.
Thanks for having us on.
Cheers,
pleasure. Thank you very much.